Hey, I'm Anthony Romano, and this video is going to tell you why high fat on keto does not equal more fat loss on your body. Okay, I've been doing keto for 9 years, many of you know, coaching people throughout that time for a variety of reasons, not just fat loss. And I also have a keto shredding program coming up very soon, so I encourage you to stay tuned because that's going to give you immediately actionable steps to apply these things to your life and understand them. But that's not the topic of this video. The topic of this video is what situations high fat on keto is going to help you or hurt you, and so that you understand it. Okay, I've spoken about this years ago. I've known about this for years, and I've explained it and touched upon it here and there. But there's a lot more prominent research and people speaking about this topic and understanding it better. One of which, who's a great resource on this topic, is Ted Naiman. So I want to give credit where it's due. This guy's absolutely been explaining things with far greater detail and really breaking things down. So because of people like him and other people in this community, we're getting more clarity on this topic, but this is my take to help you reconcile this understanding within a few minutes and basically understand the reasons behind it, okay? One thing I'd like you to do before you start this video is like the video. That will help YouTube show my videos to more people and help me grow my page. That's all you need to do to help me. And if you like the videos, subscribe and follow my Instagram as well. And go to my website for coaching, programs, books I'm dropping, things of that nature. I also have a ketone supplement giveaway going on. Read the description. Let's get into the video. Okay, so like I said, eating more fat on keto is not going to give you more fat loss. But a better starting point for this video is that keto itself is not a high-fat diet necessarily. It can be one as a byproduct of low carbs, but the low carbs and the carbohydrate restriction is actually the instigator of ketosis. Okay, if you're not eating anything, you're technically not eating carbs, fasted state, and that's going to lead you to be in a deeper keto state than being fed and eating nutritional ketosis. So the point is, the actual instigator, the prime mover here, is the absence of carbs, not the addition of fat. Even though fat is the resource that your body is going to, use to create ketones through ketogenesis, the main point here is that it's not the prime mover. The prime mover is the carbohydrate restriction. So from there, because of common practice of clinical usage of keto diet in the 1920s being used for epileptics, people were used to this standard ketogenic diet of high fat, 80-20 fat to protein ratio. And this is just the common use that everybody, got accustomed to. But in and of itself, keto does not entail that exact macro ratio. And in a lot of cases, that can be problematic. So here's why. Your body is still subject to the laws of economics, okay? Especially when it comes to fuel utilization. You still have supply and demand, and your body operates in a similar manner, if I'm simplifying things here. So if your body is on a ketogenic state, let's say you're already adapted, okay, and you are having your protein and energy, and this is why I want to give great credit to Ted Naiman, because even though this is a topic I've researched thoroughly for years, and I'm sure he did as well, he's put out work that kind of breaks things down by looking at the protein and energy, okay, which in my opinion brings the mind to look at this in a more economic way, okay? So when people often look at things in a sort of quantitative or qualitative manner, right? That's how people look at things when I explain these sort of fat loss techniques. They either look at the total calories or they look at the quality of the food and its ability to cause fat storage. So in that case, fat is not going to raise your insulin, okay? But eating lots of fat is going to quantitatively supply your body with a lot of energy, okay? And if you're doing that, you're not going to have enough demand on your body to use its own fuel stores. So even though people will say, oh, fat's not going to raise your insulin, it's not going to make you gain weight immediately or anything like the effect you would get from sugar. The main point is, what's going to happen is, even if you are in a ketogenic state, the additional energy in total volume has to be reconciled, because if you are having, no demand on your body to burn its own fuel stores, you're not going to milk out extra fat loss. So why is it that some people do lose lots of body fat, pounds and pounds of body fat, when they're on a high fat keto diet? My reason is because, back to that qualitative quantitative analysis, at the beginning, if somebody's just hopping into keto diet and they have super high fat, right, their insulin on the whole is going to be lower than it was before from their previous high carb diet, okay? Their insulin's lower. So even if quantitatively their energy is around the same or perhaps even more in daily total, which it probably won't be because of the appetite suppression effects of keto, even if it's around the same, even if it's at their maintenance, because of the fact that their insulin is so much lower than it used to be, there's a huge difference in basically the body's fat storage hormone. Okay, and for the beginning part, this is an oversimplification, by the way. For the beginning part of the diet, they can get away with a lot more in terms of total food volume and calorie quantity because it's still such a massive shock to the body and downregulation of fat storing hormone. That's one way to put it. Now, when somebody gets to a more lean body fat percentage, of course, they're not going to be able to get away with this as easily as somebody who's very overweight. And at that point, a lot of people talk about this keto plateau. And a lot of the reason that exists is because from the get-go, from the starting point for a certain individual, they started off with the standard keto diet of 80-20, and they rode it out without counting calories and just doing it the easy way, which is the easy keto way that works for a lot of people. But after a certain point, they hit a wall. And the reason why is because they're still having no extra energy demand. They're putting no extra energy demand on their body after a certain point when they've kind of reached homeostasis. So after you've lost 40 pounds without calorie counting, your body's not going to be that generous at getting rid of all of its fuel stores, because if it did, then your body's basically thinking, we can't burn up all the extra energy here because I don't know if there's going to be a famine tomorrow. I don't know if I'm not going to have access to food tomorrow. So your body doesn't want to use up everything. It's, again, subject to the laws of economics and, mindful spending, if you will. Okay? So after a certain point, what you're going to want to do is you, might want to raise the protein because you'll probably have more muscle mass, and this is, again, tying into the work of Ted Naiman. Raising the protein as well will probably put a little bit more metabolic demand on your body to burn more calories. And again, we have two sides of the coin here. Most people only look at one, but a lot of the keto crowd tends to look at the other side, the qualitative. And we need to reconcile them both. That is my kind of, message that I explain with a lot of these videos. That's my interpretation. But the thing is, raising the protein will probably put more demand because protein's very taxing to digest. It's the most thermogenic macro, whatever, all the stuff that people normally know. But the thing is, on top of that, as a byproduct of raising that protein, you will most likely reduce your fat to a level where not only are you putting more economic demand on your body to burn more fuel, and also simultaneously protecting your muscle stores from being, utilized, which keto is going to be protective of that anyways. But at the same time, you're raising that demand, you're also limiting the supply. So you are getting a double whammy effect of how much your body needs to prioritize burning its own fuel. And this is why there's simply no comparison as to what the most effective fat loss strategy is when it comes to keto dieting. Even if somebody wanted to eat 80-20 but severely restrict their calories, they would lose probably comparable amounts of body fat, but I'd argue that the protein raising and the fat lowering would be more effective if we're talking like the most aggressive strategy out there. But technically, you have to think of it like lowering or increasing the demand on your body to use its own fuel stores. And a lot of people, when they're just eating keto without calorie counting, they're oversupplying the energy stores and they're not putting that extra demand on their body. So the main way to reconcile this idea is, if you are trying to break through a plateau, if you are somebody who is trying to burn more body fat or, start off keto with a more, aggressive approach, besides the fact that you should get keto adapted first and do some sort of, balanced keto diet up front, as far as keto dieting goes, the most aggressive way to get body fat loss is to raise the protein, lower the fat, because even though you'll have more relatively stable blood sugar with a high fat approach, right? You're not going to milk out as much fat loss because there's not as much demand. It's that simple. And you can also, satisfy that criteria for demand by eating the similar higher fat macros, but lowering the total energy. Because again, you have the quantitative side and the qualitative side, and you need to marry the two, because there's no day without night. There's no summer without winter. Everything is, dualistic in a lot of ways. A lot of things are dualistic in that way, okay? And essentially, you have to marry the two, and most people think of only one side of the coin. So hopefully this video helped you understand things better and wasn't too derivative. If it was helpful for you, again, like the video, follow me on Instagram, subscribe here, and go to my website, okay? Leave me some questions in the comments. I'll try to do my best to get back to you. Besides that, I'm Anthony Romano. Peace.